Reviewing your case study is one of the best ways a hiring manager uses to decide if a particular candidate is worthy to interview or not. That is why it matters that you land your best first impression in your case studies, and with this video I'm gonna give you the tips you need to create a very good case study that captures the hiring manager's attention, because let's face it, you probably roughly have 10 to 20 seconds to actually land that great first impression that will let the hiring manager scroll further and at the end decide to interview you. Alright, so before we go section by section and show you how you should design your case study, we have to understand two things about our user, and in this case it is the hiring manager. The first is, what kind of a mindset does a hiring manager have when they are going to review a case study? This is very important because at this point the hiring manager has already looked at your resume, your homepage, and decided that you were worth a shot. But how will they use your case study? Will they just read it all the way through, or will they just skim? And the difference between those statements actually influence your design decisions a lot. The second is, what is the goal of the user, the hiring manager? Now, for our situation, I am going to be giving two simple goals, which is to decide if you have the skills for UI design and if you have the designs for the UX design. Their goal is to be done as fast as possible, find the right candidate as fast as possible. So they will not read, but they will skim. They will not idle upon your images, but if something catches their eye, they stop. They might read, but usually it takes them 10 seconds to go because they have 50 resumes, 10 portfolios, and the clock is ticking. What is the purpose of a hero section? For us, for the hiring manager, it is to give them the idea of what kind of a project this is, what did we do, the timeline of the project, and also what are the final impacts that a person, in this case the hiring manager, can expect when they skim down. So the reason we are doing these things is the hiring manager has a set of questions. When they see a case study, they often wonder, okay, I see this is great design, but are you the only designer? Because if there was two designers on the project, how can I know this all things that you are showing me in terms of images, high fidelity designs are designed by you? So you have to establish your role. You should also give a length of time, because that way the hiring manager will understand how long it takes you to go through your design process for a project like this, and they can gauge your competence. And giving the project type is always useful so that they will understand if this is a case that they should study or not. Because if their company is solely a mobile application and they don't want to bridge to a web application, this is not the case that they should review. So we are literally trying to answer all these questions right at the get-go to show the hiring manager that we care about their experience, so that they will scroll. So they scroll and then we show them a splash screen. The reason for this is, again, the top portion of the hero section was to answer the UX questions and the general questions the hiring manager had. The sneak peek here is to tell we also are good at UI design. Because if we only show the high fidelity designs at the end, most hiring managers will not scroll all the way to your case study. They will just leave if they are not interested. So it is good to mix the heavy text with high fidelity images as much as you can, so that they understand you have UI design competence as well. And then you will end with your hypothesis and your context, meaning your hypothesis is what is the problem that we are trying to solve, and your context is how did you arrive to this problem. Onward to research phase. Now, what matters in this phase of the design process is that you get to show the user interviews that you did and your user personas, the customer journey and prototype goals. Now, what matters here is that if you haven't done any user interviews, show something like a survey you did, because if you are just showing your personas without any kind of a research, this is going to be a red flag. So hopefully you did some user interviews and you captured certain things. And I want to also mention here, I am selectively putting certain things, meaning I am putting the key insights that the hiring manager will look at, meaning I am assuming, because the hiring manager is skimming when they are going to your case study, they are not going to read, they are going to look at this part and maybe this part. chances are it will be hard for them to go and read all this text. So that is how I am basically also mixing the visuals with the actual thing they have to read, like the 50% and then what that means, so that they will be much more inclined to actually read. So I'm using my visual design skills to draw attention. And that is very important. Do not, and I repeat, do not just put all the things you did for user interviews, like 10 texts of a paragraph, 2 or 3 paragraphs. They do not have enough time. Again, this is not a book. This is a kind of a web page and they are skimming. Then with your user interviews, you are going to mention your user personas. And one thing that I would actually advise is you can use the left or the right side of a persona to give one quote that will describe the exact problem or the need of that particular persona. So from a glance, the hiring manager understands, okay, these are 3 different people. You know, they don't have as much overlap. And then for me, for this project, I had done a customer journey because it's a double-sided market, meaning you have users and the customer and they are different. I had to also mention the customer journey because the user interviews and personas were based on the users and not the customer. And then I'm going to set the initial prototype goals, meaning this will be the goals that I will be working during my initial low fidelity sketches or wireframes. And again, I am using and mixing them with visuals so that the hiring manager is much more inclined to read these things. So once you establish your goals within your research phase, you probably have moved to the low fidelity phase and hopefully you did some usability testings. And that is actually what we did. So I created the sample workflow and I did sketches first, then low fidelity. Now, this is very important. You can see, I'm just going to scroll fast a bit, I am only showing the wireframing. I am not showing the sketches. And the reason for that is it is very hard to take or sketch for me good enough looking things that I can put to my portfolio without being judged, that are still also readable. I found it very difficult because my line drawing isn't straight. Now, this might be different for you if you are coming from drawing background and you can sketch things that are pretty easily understandable, then you can put to your portfolio. But the reason I also chose wireframe is it is much easier to make the connection of seeing the visual, and then once we hit the high fidelity, they will understand, okay, this is how it kind of looks like once you add the color, typography, and just make small adjustments. And please look at how I show the workflow, and again I mix an image with a paragraph to grab the attention. And what I did for showing the usability testing results is I used imagery again. So, and especially the dot point ideas here of 1, 2 helps me show where the problem is without stating in written format where the problem is, and that lets me write shorter text. I tried my best to make things as short as possible while giving a lot of info, and this matters and this takes time. But this format works very well for wireframing and high fidelity. So if you can do this and it works, I think it will do a lot for your case studies. Now we are moving from the low fidelity stage to high fidelity, and we are showing the final design solution. Depending on the size of your project, you might have a style guide, branding guide, or complete design system if it's a very large project. And then I picked 3 screens to show the features we changed or updated based on the low fidelity usability testing feedback and how they connect. As you remember, in the low fidelity phase we did usability testing, and the way we showed is with the right side has the low fidelity wireframe image of screenshot, and then we have the point system to show where we are making the changes and why we are making them. The high fidelity design solution will also mention those changes as how it changed and what kind of things 40% of the customers mentioned during user interviews. So it connects. So the usability testing and user interviews connect to the high fidelity design, and it is very important to show them in a paragraph here. And I would suggest pick at least 3 screens that are showing different features of your product and show in the left side or the right side in one part how the high fidelity screen looks, so the hiring manager will say, okay, this is a great UI design, and on the right, and also have a side where you explain why the screen looks the way it does and how it connects to the early user interviews and usability tests. And this is how it goes. And I just want to mention the style guide, and again, very simple here. This was not a big project. It depends on what you have, but it is good to have style guide, the minimum. Hiring manager understands not only can you do UI design, but also self-organize your work. And then we can move to the impact section. And this is a section that usually isn't present in most of the case studies that I looked in other UX designers, and I think it's a very bad waste, because impact section gives you an opportunity to tell your next steps of a project, because in UX most of the projects are never ending, especially if it's a project or a case study that you did when you were working full-time. Usually the project has certain goals that you had to meet this sprint or this block of time, and there are still some things that you usually missed. So it's good to have this to mention your next steps. It's also good to show your results. So this can be done in other ways. For us, it was that we signed 8 businesses within the first week of launch for this case study. For this product, we got the Startup Accelerator Award. So this shows that a lot of people actually support us, and we got customers thanks to this product. Also, it helps to have testimonials, and for testimonials, I always say if you can, get the quote, a profile picture, and also an email of the person as a hyperlink. For me, I didn't have the image or the hyperlink because I was actually rushing to get this whole portfolio done. So I didn't ask till very late. So that's one of my mistakes. If you can, always get a picture and hyperlink so that the hiring manager actually believes your testimonial to be accurate. Because by giving an actual hyperlink to the person, you are actually having a stake in the claim that this is an actual testimonial. Hey guys, if you have enjoyed this video and you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe by tapping on that button below. If you do, you will get a notification when I will post 2 videos per week on how to improve as a UI UX designer and in a UI UX design career, so that you can get better in your career and learn more design skills. Hey guys, I have put 2 more videos at the end of this video that I believe will make you have a better career in UI UX design. Make sure you check them out, and if you have any questions, make sure that you drop a comment below.